Hey, what's up, folks? Welcome back to On Texas Football. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Davis. Pleased to be joined by the estimable Jerry Hamilton, and I'm glad that you guys are joining us as well. We can think of it as a therapy session. A lot of Longhorn fans, including myself, need a little therapy after watching that fuster cluck of a performance, that dumpster fire of a performance versus the Florida Gators. So we'll talk about it, break it down. I've watched it twice now. I do plan on going back and watching it again, unfortunately.
Really? Oh, man.
I'm a glutton for punishment.
That's a true beating right there, Rod.
It's not the process I have to like track it, and now I wish that I didn't have that process. So I got to go back and watch it. And the crazy part about it, Jerry, I go back and watch like specifically line play, and I shouldn't even have to, because I like to watch secondary and routes and quarterback and then watch line play. I think they're two different worlds. But I'm scared to get into that because I already know how bad it is just watching from the first two watching. So we'll get into that. Huckam says just throw everything out the window and just wing it as long as we win. Yeah, we'll talk about it. Of course, it is Texas OU week, basically. So let's not forget about that, even though we do have to break down in terms of the post-mortem of that epic collapse in all three phases by the Longhorns in Gainesville. So questions, comments, throw them out there. We'll address as many of them as we can. Super chat, jump to the front of the line. You can interrupt the show at any time. Guys, we'll talk about everything. I mean, there's at this point, there's nothing off the table in terms of discussion about this team. Jerry, you've watched it. I mean, now I'm sure once or twice. What were your thoughts going back? Anything now that has stood out to you in retrospect after watching the game again?
Yeah, so look, my biggest takeaway from this game, Rod, we did a video last week and said it was put up or shut up time. And the thing that I think is so concerning for me is that Texas got on a plane and flew to Gainesville knowing that these are pretty much must-win games, that you have one game margin fair to make the playoffs. You went into Florida knowing they were really good on defense. It was going to be a hostile environment, and they were going to be a physical team. And you get off the plane, and you get ready for the game, and you go into the game, and you physically got whipped. That is the most concerning thing to me. And then, and I said on OnTexasFootball.com this morning, a fan base can handle player mistakes, right? Nobody's perfect. None of us are perfect in our lives. We make mistakes, right? And I make mistakes at 50. I make mistakes at 51 all the way till I die. But what fan bases have a hard time wrapping their head around or being okay with in the game of football is getting physically whipped and being undisciplined while being physically whipped. And the fan base saw both of those in a game that this Texas team got on a plane and knew it was going to be physical and knew it was going to be hostile and knew they needed to win. And that's what you got. That's concerning. And I wrote on the site this morning, guys, this is a culture test coming up in Dallas. That's what this is. Coaches love to talk about culture, and I think culture is overused. I think it's kind of coach speak and recruit speak, recruiting talk a lot, but this is straight over tackle. It's the same thing I wrote this morning. This is straight over tackle right now. If Texas does not come out Saturday against Oklahoma with the most physical, emotionally charged effort by this team since January 10th, because that's what it was in a college football playoff. If this team does not bring it to a level that you expect and that they have to bring it at after that butt whipping physically, they don't have it. Period.
Yeah. No, I agree with you about it. It seemed like the desperation factor for Florida, and we knew it was there, right? Billy Napier. We talked about Billy Napier's last day, and DJ Lagway. He was in a slump. It looked like he was a different quarterback from last year to this year, and even the offensive line, like they as a team overall, they had a whole bye week to stew in it, and there's no doubt they went to work. Yeah. It's obvious by the product on the field. And it is obvious by the product on the field that Texas, in that bye week, that they started reading how great they were from the Sam Houston State game and how, and basically how highly ranked they were, and they started to believe the hype. This team still has a ton of talent, and they have a ton of talent, and they still can win a lot of football games, but they have to now understand getting back to work like Florida did, it's a week-to-week journey. And if you don't get better every week and you continue to regress and then you become inconsistent and there's no baseline of consistency that you can count on, this is a team that could lose 4 or 5 games.
Look, but there's a lot of – Rod, I want your thoughts on what you saw in the second watch. There's a lot of X's and O's. There's a lot of individual player talk. And I want to say this. Not every single player. So I don't want to make it sound like I'm talking 1 through 85 or 1 through 74, right? Not everybody got physically whipped, right? But as a team, all 3 phases, and it wasn't just the offensive and defensive lines. That was the part that was the worst. But it was
DBs in that game.
You're going to go through it. You're going to go through it. But again, it's like the thing that was so concerning about that game is they watched the tape on Florida. They knew they were a physical team, even though they were losing close games on the road at LSU and Miami. They knew Florida was going to bring the fight physically. Yeah, and they physically whipped. That's a bad spot to be, man.
Something you brought up, Jerry, and I brought up the desperation factor, which I think also was underestimated. That they played real desperate. They played like they literally played like it was everything was on the line in that game versus Texas. But also you brought it up, battle tested. And you brought it up during the week, like, man, they're battle tested though. They had like Texas athleticism, Texas speed, the overall aura of Texas. It is not going to shock them one bit because they faced LSU, they faced Miami. They've seen those types of athletes. Actually, they've seen a lot of those types of athletes. And I think that was underestimated too. They came out and jumped on Texas.
Oh, yeah.
Like Texas wasn't used to seeing athletes like that. It was like it had been the Ohio State game. It had been a while. And remember, Texas was familiar with Ohio State anyway because of the college football playoff the previous year. And it did look like Texas was a little shell-shocked by the athletes. Seeing those types of athletes, I'll admit that is a factor that we did not – that I would say that we underrated in terms of the impact.
And if high-end athletes bring physicality to the fight and you aren't ready to bring physicality to the fight, you're going to get whipped. And, I mean, look, there's – and that's the main. This game, at the heart of this game, is still about physicality. It's an emotional game, and you have to control your emotions, but play with emotions, and you have to play with discipline. And when people are like, well, Texas lost in all 3 phases: offense, defense, and special teams in terms of getting out physical. I think they lost in the most important 3 phases in football: physicality, emotion, and discipline.
The discipline thing is, unfortunately, this team is an undisciplined team.
Yeah.
The penalties at this point, every week we've seen it for 5 games. This is who they are.
And now we're gonna find out what the real fight of this culture, and who I think is an overterm use, but in this team, in this locker room is, because they just got their manhood challenged, and Oklahoma's coming for blood.
How soon do we hear about the team meeting? How soon till that's reported? Because it's definitely happening. The team meeting is needed. This is when you get whipped like that, you gotta have a team meeting. Yeah. You gotta have a team. You gotta have that come to Jesus moment for the team. Maybe it's not an unofficial one. Maybe it's not everybody on the team. Maybe it's just most of the team gets together. I don't give a damn how it happens. But when you get whipped like that, trust me, because I've gotten whipped like that. I've been on teams that got whipped like that. All right, but you gotta.
Hey, Rod, you were on that team, and y'all went and played Kansas State on the road the next week, right? Is that what it was? I'm trying to think.
What, Texas OU after OU, Oklahoma?
Wasn't it K-State?
I forget. You might be right about that.
But y'all came in down, and K-State was super physical team, and y'all matched the physicality on the road at Kansas State. Yeah, I think you were on that team. We're all getting old now.
No,
because Kansas State was super physical football team.
That was their brand.
And y'all came back from that beatdown and matched the physicality of Kansas State in that game and won that game. And I think it was kind of bad weather too, or cold, chilly weather.
It was, yeah.
This Texas team better do that Saturday. If they can't match physicality of Oklahoma Saturday, you got real issues. This is very simple this week before you get to X's and O's and Jimmy's and Joe's. It's truly about what do you bring into the fight.
That's why I said that the player meeting, the players only meeting has got to happen, because now we got to figure out the mindset of everybody on the team.
Yeah.
It's clear that 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 all the guys were now on the same page, and that they were there was no sense of urgency in that game versus Florida. Even if the way I understand that you can lose to anybody in the SEC, but the way you started that game, you finished it with urgency. But I think that was after you started getting your butt kicked, excuse me. And then you realized the reality, the fit hit the shan already, and you were like, "Oh man, we're gonna lose this game." And it's like, yeah, and and that can happen every week. So there's a sense of urgency now, and I'm hoping that now that will affect everybody on the team in terms of their preparation and their focus, because they were not focused. That was not a focused team.
Rod, so what did your second watch tell you that the first watch maybe didn't live? What did your second? What was your second watch?
Defensively, I was wondering like what the adjustments were, and they tried a lot to stop the running game for Florida. Florida had an answer for almost. They had a counter for every adjustment that Texas made, whether it was going from nickel to base, whether that was going with a 3D tackle package when Texas started to stack the box. I mean, Texas did a lot of different things to try to. They started blitzing at one point. No matter what they did, it seemed like Florida had an answer for it. And that was a little troubling, and we just hadn't seen that. And I don't know what you do when your D-line can't stop the run. I don't really know as a coordinator if schematically there's anything you can do. But ultimately they failed. I think that it was the D-line and the secondary that were most disappointing. The linebackers, I really didn't have a ton of criticism for the linebackers overall. I thought Timothy Smith was awesome. And Anthony Hill had 14 tackles, some legendary tackles. I thought the linebackers actually they had a hard time because the D line didn't get any push, didn't get any penetration, and at times often got pushed back. So I just think you fail at three of your levels of defense. You pretty much got beaten two of those three levels. And for the a defensive line, or just say the pass rush for Texas, only gets 6 pressures, guys. 6.
Yeah, that's
it. They also got to figure out why
on an awful quarterback, by the way.
Yeah, they got to figure out why their pass rush isn't working. You can say what you want about how talented they are, and we know they're talented, and their deep pass rush right now is not working.
And that was supposed to be the strength of the defense, by the way.
Exactly. 4 of your 6 pressures came from Colin Simmons alone, if I'm not mistaken. I believe. Yeah. 4 of them were just him alone, which he's a beast, but it was supposed to be a depth, kind of a really talented position overall, and the depth of the position was supposed to be as good as any team in the country. That's not necessarily the case right now. So they got to figure that out. And the DBs, a lot of it was just technique and leverage. I thought there was a lot of bad leverage in the game for the DBs, outside leverage when they probably should have been either head up or understanding where their help was. If you're outside, there's no need to go for an outside fake. You're already outside. That's it's redundancy. Like you're outside leverage, then only worry about the inside cuts. That's the point of being outside, because you're there. He's got to run right into you if he wants to go outside. And on that touchdown, you can see the outside fake to get to create a little space. The outside fake there, and the young buck went for the outside fake. And that was just enough space for them to fit the glance route in. So it was those, like Jalen Gilbo on the crossing route on 3rd and 8. He's outside leverage. That guy runs just a shallow drag route, and he hesitates as if he's anticipating inside help. It's like, no, you need to go match that right away. Like, what are you waiting on? It was man coverage. It looked like it was man coverage across the board. So I just think it was some mental errors on the part of the DBs, but ultimately the O-line just got whipped. Your O-line is a finesse line, and your O-line, honestly, this is my thing. You're not a good run blocking O-line, and now you've proven you're not a good pass blocking O-line. And so you failed in every. I don't even know at this point if Texas had an O-line performance that bad since maybe the 2009 Big 12 title game against the Dominican Sioux. Look at that, guys. Look at the Nick Brooks pass blocking grade from Pro Football Focus. Think what you will about Pro Football Focus. Give him respect, I don't care. All right. They gave him a 0 pass blocking grade. Guys, I believe he had, how many pass blocking snaps did he have? 33?
Yeah.
33. 33?
I hope that's a misprint.
I honestly, and if he should challenge Pro Football Focus.
Yeah.
because that may hurt his draft stock in the future. A 0 Pro Football Focus passing grade. They're saying he was that bad. That's why I go back and watch the trenches. I can't believe it was that bad, but you did allow more. Think about it. There were more pressures by the opposing team in this game by Florida than Georgia got on Texas in that first game. Think about that. Georgia annihilated your O-line in that game. This game, they put your opposing quarterback under pressure. 59% of the time had 34 pressures. 34.
Most. I think Arch was pressured more than any other SEC quarterback this year against a P4 opponent. I'm pretty sure that was a tweet somewhere.
I believe, matter of fact, Matthew has this because Matthew's the man. I already know he does. Because I believe the stat is from David Eckert.
Yeah.
And he claims his research, and he works for the Statesman, so he ain't some scrub, that only one starting Power 4 quarterback has faced higher pressure rate than what Arch Manning faced against Florida yesterday. And that was, thank you, Matthew.
Oh, Utah getting after Nico.
Yeah, Nico, 62%. 59% of the time, dude was running for his life. So your O-line can't run block because you only got 15. How many yards rushing? Was it 15 yards rushing?
Yeah. Right
15 yards rushing for your running backs overall. So you can't run block, and your pass blocking was abysmal. And so I don't even know how you are supposed to evaluate no line when you have failed that miserably in the only 2 areas where you're evaluated. So give me a worse O-line performance. Because I don't think I can. I think 2009 that against Nebraska Big 12 title game
again. Florida.
That was Dominican Sue. That was one of the greatest defensive players in college football.
Yeah, look, Florida had 3 sacks coming into the game. Rod, you said it all week. They had 3 sacks coming into the game,
and they ended up with 6.
I think the toughest thing about outside of what I kind of talked about as far as just getting physically whipped and not playing with discipline, I think the toughest thing about this game is you can go find on YouTube the Miami-Florida game, even if it's the condensed version, and go watch how Miami got after Florida. And I got to tell you, that is the worst part about it because Miami's defensive line was whipping Florida's butt. And I know it was a road game, but they whipped them. Mm-hmm. DJ Lagway was running for his life in that game. Jaden Ball's a 10-year NFL running back, 12 carries, 46 yards, was not a factor outside of one drive in the entire game. And then Miami's offensive line physically took the fight to Florida and won the fight up front against Florida.
Yeah.
That's the worst thing is the previous opponent of Florida was Miami, and they beat Florida the way Texas we expected going into the year they would beat Florida.
We expected. Like I said, Jerry, before we get to the questions, like I said this is the last thing I'll say before we get to the questions. You and I, and a lot of folks here at OTF, and a lot of y'all out there watching right now, y'all watched Florida in those previous 4 games. Long Island was the only one team they played that wasn't pretty much a good team to a great team. When you're talking about Miami, LSU, or South Florida. And when they played LSU and Miami, you see what product they put on the field when they played a good team, at least a good team. We don't know if they're great. I think Miami could be great, not in terms of being able to be great this season, but at least LSU is in that good to great category. And Florida basically showed you who they really were as a team in those games against good teams. Against Texas, they had the best game they've had all season long. And to me, that says more about where Texas is than Florida turning the corner or Florida maybe having some type of, reinvention or resurrection.
Hey, we're going to find out real quick on Florida because they're at A&M this weekend.
There you go. They did.
Yeah. You're going to find Texas fans are going to find out real quick on Florida if what they actually are. They're an 8-4 team, or is Florida 6-6 team? We're going to find out Saturday in College Station.
Yeah, well, that's an 8-4 team. You just got beat by an 8-4 team, pretty handily.
But if Florida doesn't come play A&M to the wire, if it doesn't look the same as it did against Texas, and even if you lose on the road, if it doesn't look anything like that, it's going to be very telling.
Yes, it will be, brother. All right, let's get to the questions here because I know we got a bunch of them. Super chats, they're lining up. So let's go right to it. William, thank you, William, for the super chat. We appreciate it. Says, what can Sark do to give Arch a chance on Saturday? Beating OU is just what this team needs right now. Hook 'em. You ain't lying about that. This is a pivotal turning point in the season. This is a crossroads right now, and it is the middle point of the season. It's the midterm. Jerry, I thought Arch, I'll say this, and maybe that's just me looking for silver linings. I feel better now about Arch than I've actually felt all season long. About Arch.
Yeah, he battled. I mean, look, there's still. I'm sure, Rod, you looked at it, and there's times he held the ball too long, right? Or
yes.
there's times he didn't move off the first read quick enough, right? But the guy battled in that game. He was taking a beating. Now, I mean, that guy was taking a beating. He was very sore today. I mean, he is even when he was running, he took a beating. But he just when you're trying to step in the throws and you're just getting hammered the entire game, arms up, arms out, body's going all over the place, man. You're a sore guy on Sunday morning. And I thought Art showed a lot of heart and a lot of battle. Look, he's got things he's got to get a lot better at. But what we saw against UTEP was a guy that mentally went in the tank. We did not. You saw a quarterback that made mistakes. Hell, DJ Lagway made a late mistake throwing a pick in that game. He should have never thrown the football. But Arch is, I think, growing. But my concern for Oklahoma is they can replicate what Florida did up front and do it with a pass rush on top of it.
Yeah, the scary thing with Oklahoma is they specialize in putting pressure on the quarterback. Florida came into this game with the lowest pressure rate in the Power Four. As Jerry pointed out, only 3 sacks. They didn't really know what the hell they were doing in terms of pressuring the opposing quarterback going into this game, and they figured it out against Texas. And it was an issue that's given Texas problems in the past, simulated pressures. They got 6 sacks on Texas. I think 4 of them were simulated pressures. 5 of the 6 were with 4-man rushes. That's also concerning. I think they got 1 of them when they were blitzing. So that's why, because Oklahoma, they got some true pass rushing dogs. Yeah. And Florida didn't have that coming in.
Yeah.
And so that's why that is. It's what is Sark going to do to help his quarterback deal with that issue when we all know it's very likely they are salivating right now looking at what your offensive line did against Florida. So what do? You got to get the ball out of his hands a little bit quicker. He's averaging 3.2 seconds right now. 3.2 seconds is average time to throw. If you look at quarterbacks with at least 100 dropbacks, that would be top 5, longest. So I would think, you got to get the ball out of hands a little bit quicker. Some better RPO game, more screens, more quick game. All right. Mike, I see a super chat, but I don't see a question. So, Mike, I appreciate it. If we find a Mike question out there for Mike Torres, please let us know about that, Matthew. Thank you, Mike, though, for the super chat. 1, I'm a realist Texas fan. I wasn't surprised by the result. I was surprised how poorly our defense played. I think Arch didn't play bad like he did in the UTEP game. My question is, what have your sources said since this game? Thank you, Juan. Very kind of you. We appreciate the super chat.
Well, the thing we talked about through the 3 cupcake wins were you're not emotionally going to be up for those games. And I was waiting for the Florida game to see, all right, where is this team? How far have they come from Ohio State? Because you're not going to get emotionally get up for 3 cupcake opponents. It's not human nature. It's not going to happen. Where I was just befuddled is what they brought to Gainesville, what they came off the plane with. I mean, they knew Florida was going to be physical. There's no way they didn't know Florida was going to be physical. It's right there on tape, and that they're a good defensive team, and that you knew they were going to, if they had any fight left in them, if they still supported their coach, they were going to bring it in that game. And that stadium is a tough place to play.
They did.
The fact that you got off the plane and you weren't ready to match the physicality and match the fight is it's in sports. Those are the most concerning things to me before you get into X's and O's and individual player performance. If you can't match the fight, you have issues.
Yeah, I mean, I would just take kind of what Sark said in the post game. I think you got to figure out first your run game issue. I think he was asked, is it O-line or running backs? I would say it's obvious it's your O-line. Like, You got a 1,000-yard back in Trey Weiss who's returning. CJ Baxter, I mean, when he's in there, run game is working, different kind of run game. I think a lot of us have at least one of the young backs that we all like, whether it's a Clark or a Simon or something like that. It's like, no, it ain't. I think the running back's all right. It's your old, considering what we just watched versus Florida, it's your O-line, coach.
Yeah.
I can save you the time in case you need to reevaluate that. It's the O-line. It's the O-line. All right. And I think that's what they got to figure out immediately. Like, one of their solutions was Nick Brooks, guys.
And by the way, if you're Oklahoma, aren't you lining Jaden Jackson up over the left guard?
Yeah, because they can't figure it out.
Here's our best guy. What are you going to do with him? Because he's better than anybody Florida had.
No, this is the crazy thing, guys. When kind of Sark was asked about the O-line, about Nick Brooks, he said basically Nick Brooks was part of the solution to fix the O-line. That move. He said Nick has been practicing really well. That was something that as we went into the bye, we felt like this guy's really been coming along. We're trying to get our best 5 guys out there. And as we started working him at left guard, it felt like that would be the right mix to at least give him an opportunity to play. And it felt like it was the best matchup, especially when we got into the drop back pass type game. He could match up a little bit better inside. That's troubling. That was part of the solution. It did not work out. It's fair to say, yeah, that did not work out. So to me, that's what Sark's got to figure out immediately before the game. You got to get at least a competent O-line.
Yeah.
Period. JD65 said, I think it's a legit question. Did the OC and the DC lie or hide the truth from Sark about where his team had improved?
That can't happen unless your head coach isn't paying attention.
Yeah, Sark's there.
Yeah.
I mean, he gets to look at it himself, so he would know where the team is. Now, hype around the team, there's no doubt the Arch Manning hype also kind of fueled the hype about the team as well. But there is talent on this team, guys. There's that. Yeah. That's not acting like this team ain't got talent. Yeah. These days, you actually can spend money to get.
You're a bunch of nationally recruited players that everybody wanted.
Yeah, the talent's there. And by the way, we also know these guys can coach. Also want us don't start that either. Like, I know they can coach. I watched them develop what they inherited from the previous regime and then take that talent to the highest possible level. Now, what's missing right now is the question. Yeah. Your talent, you recruited all this. This is finally your team, guys. You recruited your type of football character, your type of players, mentality, everything. And now you have been here. You have the most continuity in all of college football in terms of your coaching staff. And so what's the disconnect? Where's the disconnect? It's got to be youth and inexperience. That's why the penalty's there. The O-line is inexperienced. And so it's just, we all underestimated youth and inexperience, how much of a factor it would be. And they're undisciplined. They're like teenagers. They play college football like a bunch of teenagers. They may play really well versus Oklahoma. But in terms of the grown men, more consistency.
Look, again, a lot of this is physicality. At the heart of this game, it's physicality, and we're gonna find out in the Cotton Bowl, round 230 Saturday, what this team truly has inside them. And I hate to question their manhood, but after you get your butt whipped physically, up and down, and when in a game you knew you had to bring the physicality, and I'm telling you, Oklahoma got blown out by Texas last year. They're bringing physicality to this game. They may not have Jaden Ball, and they may not have Mateer, and they may not have Dallas Wilson, but they are going to bring physicality. And if you don't match their physicality, it won't matter that they don't have those guys.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that, brother. All right, getting back to it. Thank you for that super chat. Scott with a super chat says, Sark is a better GM than coach. Thoughts? Some people say just he's a better play caller or offensive coordinator than a head coach, or maybe he should be head coach instead of the offensive coordinator. A lot of folks want him right now to start maybe delegating a little bit more.
One of the things we talked about going in to the season is how this offensive within Sark's scheme was going to change this year. It was going to be more Arch under center, more dropbacks. Arch wants to throw it down the field. Sark wants to throw it down the field, right? Mm-hmm. It's like a perfect marriage or craziness, right? But if you can't pass pro You can't do it. You can't do it. And if Arch holds the ball too long at times, you can't do it. So longer developing route. And guys look, Texas is not without athletes. There were guys running around open. There were guys that were beating other fast players in this game. Maybe you didn't see it. Maybe you have to go back and watch it and watch the wide receivers getting downfield. But Rod, you watched it. Texas is not without athleticism on this team. They're not without speed on this team. But in order for that type of scheme, when you go back to work, your offensive line has to pass pro. And if your offensive line doesn't pass pro, you have no shot to execute that scheme.
Yeah. I'll say this, go rewatch the game, and they did a great job, Florida did, of taking away some of the staple core concepts from Sark. Like, go back and watch the screen game. How many of the screens that basically they just read from the get-go?
Yeah.
Remember the one they were trying to throw to Trey Weissner, and yet 29 was like literally – he had his hands on the hips of Trey Weissner, and then Arch just had to eat it and go elsewhere with it. And then on the Jack Entries middle screen, the guy was waiting there with him, did like a body slam, body slam. And those screens aren't fooling a lot of teams, and I think Sark needs to get a little bit more creative with the screen game. A little bit too, because they saw it. Trust me, guys, they were waiting on some of those screens too.
Yes, they were.
Taylor here says, I thought Arch grew. Everything else regressed. Sark wasted a lot of time. Niblett, please stop letting punch drop. We lost 15 yards before the half. Sark likes Niblett, guys. I know y'all may not like him, but Sark he had a damn package for Niblett in the game.
Right, you saw your pony package with Niblett.
Yeah, saw it with Niblett. He brought it out a couple of times. I'm glad. Maybe that's what. Remember, we were all arguing, or at least we were discussing whether Sark was saving something. Was he saving something? Maybe that's what he was saving. I didn't see much, honestly, by the way, to support that theory. Just throwing it out there. Yeah. But thank you, Taylor. I appreciate that. Keith, thank you, Keith, for the super chat. Says Sark needs to answer the hard questions now. How did you misevaluate the O-line this badly? Why didn't you use the portal for O-line, and why didn't you use the portal to get a running back?
So here's my I'm not saying anybody's right or wrong, but I do want to mention this. Like everything, I've been hit a lot today, DMs. Well, Texas starting offensive linemen, how highly were those guys ranked? Why did Texas not go to the portal? To me, it kind of – I have an issue with all that because you just lost to a Florida team that had started 3 3-star offensive linemen and 2 borderline 4-stars, no true national recruits, and nobody out of the portal. Those were all guys they've been building in their program. Damian George was out of the portal years ago, but he's now been in the program. They like Florida, they didn't there's different ways to build this, but again, Miami, look at their offensive line, 2 or 3 3-star guys, 1 5-star Mal, saw him at IMG's a stud, and a JUCO guy who wasn't highly recruited as a 4-star coming out of JUCO. And they built it a little different way, but look, there's teams that are building from within and developing those guys, and they're not all highly ranked guys. But Florida guys were freaking physical.
Yeah, no, Jaden Ball. You guys said it before the game. Like
there's a lot of different ways to do this, but again, like you just watch Florida, and if you look at their starting offensive line and you look at their roster and you look at their offensive line, it really wasn't built any different. So, what's your difference?
Them 2 true freshman wide receivers too. That's promising, right? That Dallas Wilson kid, and then the Vernon Brown.
Texas tried to. There's a question about did Texas pay NIL for the wrong 5-stars? Texas tried to get Dallas Wilson on camp. I've reported on it many times. He's a stud. Texas tried to get him. He was committed to Oregon a long time, and behind the scenes, people kept saying he's going to end up staying in state and going to Florida. And when Texas could never get him on campus, and everybody's like, "I'll just buy him." Well, other people have. Bobby says all the time, other people have money too, and you're not going to get all these guys. You can try your hardest, and you're not going to get all these guys. And Florida felt like they had to have him, and they kept him home.
That's good stuff, Jerry. I didn't know that. Good reporting. All right, let's thank our sponsor at Rogue Shop before we move on, and then we'll answer some more of your questions. Thank you to our friends at Rogue Shop, rogueshop.com. They are bringing real plant medicine back to its roots. They also ship nationwide, so no matter where you are in this great country of ours, our friends at Rogue Shop can get their fantastic products to you. They have it all, from oils and creams to flour and gummies. And if you use that special discount code on Texas, you see it right there on your screen, you'll get a very special discount from our friends over at Rogue Shop. So if you're dealing with sleep deprivation or just aches and pains from battling Father Time or from your old playing days, or maybe just general anxiety, which a lot of us have, our friends at Rogue Shop, they have so many different items that help you battle and successfully overcome some of those ailments. So check them out at rogueshop.com, bringing real plant medicine back to its roots. All right, getting back to the super chats. Greg here says 2+ years we've struggled running the ball against good defenses. We're 6-4 in the last 10 games. We have been average at best. Time we look at Flood. I'll say this about the run. There's something definitely you need to figure out what your identity in the run game is. And I know they want it to be pretty much kind of the outside zone, like that's their bread and butter concept. But you need to have more diversity and variety in the run game. And that's why Cedric Baxter being out really hurts you. Because when you have him and you have a guy like Wisner, that's when Texas truly believes that they have the most diverse and the most expansive run game, because they can use so many different elements, gap power and zone. Even with Trey Wisner this past game, I want to say he was like 70% of his runs, 70+% was zone run concepts. They didn't really get to get downhill in Florida. But how can you, when your offensive line is getting mauled the manner they did too? So.
Yeah, I mean, look, Flood's going to take all the heat. It's not his scheme.
Okay, I like that.
I'm not going to go the scapegoat, a sacrificial lamb route, dude. I'm not doing it. I'm just not going there. It's like, is the guy a bad coach? Did Nick Saban hire a bad coach? We went through this when Bo Davis left Texas. There was like, Bo Davis is a terrible coach. Really? Nick Saban tried to hire him 3 times. You think Nick Saban hired bad coaches multiple times on his staff? No. Doesn't work that way. I'm not going the sacrificial lamb route. It's deeper than that.
It is deeper. I agree with you on that, Jerry. I think it is deeper. Like I said, don't act like we ain't seen these coaches produce. Don't act like we haven't seen that before, because we have. All right, Spank B. What's up, Spank B? Appreciate the super chat. Said, I'm sorry, Jerry, but I agree with Bobby. I don't think Texas has enough fast, twitchy players on offense or defense. Y'all thoughts? Hashtag hook 'em. I will say this. I do believe there is something to that. Just because if you want to compare this offense specifically, defense, I guess it's a different question altogether. But offensively, there's no doubt there was a different speed element and twitchy element to the last 2 years with Xavier Worthy and then a Matthew Golden and a Bond in there too, A.D. Mitchell. I'll agree with that. There's no doubt. And Jaden Blue added to the mix with that too. They had a bunch of just kind of twitchy, fast, speed demons who, if they're game breakers who could break the game open at any time. I don't feel like you have game breakers right now.
Well, I think if you do, they're not getting the ball.
That's also true. Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, it's not like Texas isn't getting behind people, right? Now, do they have a shifty pitch it out and run guy? No, but that's not the way this team was built.
Not this team, no.
That's not the way
last year was built. Last year was built like that.
I mean, look, there was times when nobody thought Matthew Golden would go 1.429 at NFL Combine, right? It's like I think Texas has plenty of speed on their team. Now, what Texas doesn't have, because Ryan Wingo has not developed or been consistent, what Dallas Wilson is what every Texas fan had hoped Ryan Wingo would become. Dallas Wilson's doing it game 1. But that's what people hoped Ryan Wingo was going to become.
Yeah, that's true. I agree with that.
That's his talent level.
A guy that makes game-changing plays. A game-breaking presence all the time. Yeah. He's definitely got that kind of potential. Ain't no doubt about that. On defense, I think you got twitchy guys on defense. Yeah. I do. I believe linebacker on the D-line. I'm going to say that performance That was just because even with PK, we haven't seen a PK run defense get whipped like that in a while. Last time we saw a PK run defense get whipped like that.
Yeah.
Pass defense just found its way. Remember, 2023, you were a terrible pass defense.
Yeah.
2024, you were awesome. And you might be dealing with some issues in pass defense too, but I'm going to say that was an outlier. And that next game versus Oklahoma, you'll see the PK rush defense kind of come back to its true form. Because we hadn't seen that. We haven't seen a PK rush defense get whipped like that. All right, Lane says, how much of this is technique / coaching with Flood versus strength / conditioning with Coach Becton? Arkansas, Georgia twice, Ohio State last year, Florida, physically dominated. Hadn't happened often, but there are some teams, I think, with certain kind of talent, Georgia, Ohio State, that are able to impose their will up front on you with your finesse O-line. You got a finesse O-line. Right? It's a finesse O-line. Yeah.
It's finesse in the scheme.
Also true. Yep. So, Elaine, I think that's part of it too. All right. Thank you for the super chat. Appreciate that one. Greg here says, what is also worrisome is that Sark is on the record saying they've been building for this year, and we're in year 5 with O-line depth concerns. We got guys who would not crack the 2 deep on tier 1 programs. Oh,
I don't know about that.
On O-line, right? Is that what you're talking about? The O-line? You say that basically is there a guy on the O-line that wouldn't crack the 2 deep?
It's easy to say when players are struggling, but you can't say that if they're not in another situation. That's my problem with all this. Is it's easy to say, oh, those guys are terrible, they wouldn't be playing somewhere else. You wouldn't know that unless they're somewhere else. Mm-hmm. How you can't just say that. Like, it doesn't, it doesn't work that way. Because I mean, look, Brandon Baker was wanted by all teams in the playoffs. You can't. I mean, how can you definitively say, "Oh, he wouldn't be playing somewhere else"? You can't until he's up there in another situation, and you see. You can't. I just don't play that game. I just don't think that's the way this stuff works out a lot of times.
Yeah,
I hear what people are saying, but I just don't think that's the way this always happens.
Well, and at this point, you got to be about solutions anyway. Even if that hypothetical may be true, that's the conversation for a different day, because now we're in the thick of it. It's got to be about, like, what do they have and what can they accomplish with the pieces that they have in place on the O-line, because they are certainly limited. There's no doubt about that, Greg. All right, thanks, Greg. We appreciate that super chat. Horn here says, if Sark thought this offensive line was good enough, I'll never believe anything he says again the rest of his time here. Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming the Texas defensive front was whipping the Texas offensive line in training camp, and so maybe they just assumed, oh, the defensive front that's that good, they'll be fine. And they ran for 160-some yards against Ohio State, so they thought, hey, at least we can run the. I think a lot of people thought, oh, they may be able to run the football actually in the SEC. Yeah. I was wrong about that, or at least against Florida anyway. All right, Seth. Thank you for the super chat, Seth. He says the O-line looks like big humans that are not athletic. Without Archie's athletic ability, that game would have been worse. What's the adjustment at this point? How about the D-line? Thank you, Seth, super chat.
That's going to be the big thing with the Oklahoma game. We haven't even talked about this. Somehow Texas is a 3-point favorite in this against Oklahoma. I don't know how after Saturday. I honestly don't know how. They're trying to get people's money. Some way, which way or the other. That's what Vegas does. But 2.5, it's going down. The number's 42.5. Take the under. But look, that's the concerning thing about Oklahoma is Oklahoma presents the same problems from a physicality standpoint, but then they also have elite pass rush. They sacked Auburn 10 times, and I don't care how bad Jackson Arnold is. It's hard to get 10 sacks in a college football game.
Mm-hmm.
And Auburn doesn't have poor talent on the field either. They're not porous. It's not like you're playing, I don't know, San Jose State. They're playing against SEC athletes at Auburn, and it's hard to get 10 sacks in a game, and that's the real issue for me going into this game for Texas is, and Rod, it gets to your point. It's like Oklahoma's probably going to say, okay, they're going to get the ball out of Arch's hand quick this week. If you're going into that game, aren't you thinking,
oh yeah,
they're going to try to get the ball out of his hand quick this week? That's my preparation. But then in case you don't, here comes our Mason Thomas and our guys at you. So it's that's the difficult thing is Oklahoma's rush the passer better than Florida does. And Jaden Jackson's every bit as good as anybody Florida had on interior.
Mm-hmm.
And better.
Yeah, it's going to be it's a Herculean task, I think, for the O-line to step up in this matchup after that performance versus Florida. But we've seen crazy things happen in the Texas OU games. Y'all know that. We've seen some wild things happen. I think for Texas, they're hoping that Texas offensive line can show up because this is a line of scrimmage game. They're in a line of scrimmage league now, the SEC, but this has always been a game about the line of scrimmage.
100%.
Always been. So it's always been kind of an SEC feel to the game anyway. All right. Joshy here. Joshy says, turns out recruiting big humans isn't all it's cut out to be. Kyle Flood should have been left in Gainesville. Remember, Kyle Flood and Sark been together for a little while now. They've been together in Atlanta, right? In Atlanta when he was the OC there, they were there. So they kind of go together. They've been together for a while.
I just things I'm not going the sacrificial lamb scapegoat route. I mean, Nick Saban hired Kyle Flood. They won a national championship. Yeah, he had really good players, but you think he's higher? Now, Alabama was freaking physical.
Mm-hmm.
You never asked if Alabama was physical. You never questioned that they were physical. I didn't see physicality. And that, again, Texas didn't match physicality. A little different scheme in the run game.
What I don't like about it is just like the execution is so sloppy too. It's just sloppy execution overall too. Very, very rarely do you have very crisp execution from this.
And I think the lack of discipline and the same lack of execution, the same penalties. Those are the things. If I think would point to more than anything. I mean, is like we're seeing the same mistakes over and over again pre-snap in the worst situations. You get a first down, 2 false starts in a row. Then Arch is forced into making probably a throw you're not making on 1st and 10. It's 1st and 20, and you're behind. Yeah. Like all these things compound on each other.
Agreed, bro. Spencer here says, how we paid for the wrong 5-star wide receivers twice now.
Well, that was the question earlier. I mean, you're not going to get everybody you want. Nobody does. I've said this before. Nobody gets all the guys they want. Nick Saban didn't, or Kirby Smart only gets 5 out of the top 10 out of his state. 6 is an amazing year. Nobody gets all the guys they want. I said it. Dallas Wilson, Texas tried like heck to get him on campus. They tried for a year to recruit him. You're not going to get everybody. Everybody says, hey, you have the most money. Well, other people have a lot of money too. If they're spending on the guys they want to spend it on, and if a kid ends up wanting to stay close to home, it doesn't matter how bad you want it.
I was pretty sure you was gonna break out into song that you can't always get wrong, but if you try sometime, you might find you get what you need. And Texas needs a lot too, by the way. So
I mean, look, and everybody's going and this is obviously the topics when things start going bad. But then when you start, you have your roster you already have, and those guys are in an NIL day and age are at a certain number. And if you just come over the top at double that, if you have to go to some crazy number to get a high school receiver, then you got to deal with what comes after that. And it's not unlimited budgets. And then you have to know if some of these things happen, then how do you handle the guys you already have when their agents come to you? Say, hey, man, I've produced. What I produced. So what are we going to do about this?
I want to renegotiate my deal.
I want to renegotiate. You're paying this high school guy 3 times what you're paying me, and I was a starting wide receiver in a college football playoff. All right, let's renegotiate.
Yeah,
that's the reality of college sports right now. Nick Saban had 6 guys threaten not to play in the college playoff game before he retired.
That's true.
Walk out, told them they weren't going to play. They didn't get compensated more.
It's a business. It's business. But no, to that point though, Jerry, about it. Honestly, the narrative is Texas spends as much money as anybody in college football to build their roster. And remember, Oklahoma in the offseason, different narrative, right? That they were going a different route in terms of how to build their roster with a more value-based approach, if you will. That's kind of an underlying storyline in this matchup as well. All right, Corey says, Rob, I'm sorry you had to watch the game twice. Yep. Yes, I'm going to watch it a third time too, Corey. So, like I said, I'm a masochist, man. I don't know why I do it, but I do it for y'all. I appreciate y'all very much. Thank you for the super chat. Aaron says, guys, hypothetical question. Would it be a good idea to move on from Flood, Banks, Milwee, and Becton? No.
Well, yeah. Well, here's the thing. If there's only one thing that happens after that, that's the dangerous game you get into.
Of your coach, yeah, your head coach.
Your head coach. There's only one thing that happens after you change everybody.
Oh, yeah. No, that's why we just talk about Venables. That's why he was on hot seat this year. It's like, no, you changed OCs. Now you're calling the defensive plays. It's like
Billy Napier changed D coordinators.
Yeah.
Dabo changed D coordinators.
Yeah.
No. Once you start making your changes, then the only arrows pointed at one person.
And Sark loves continuity. He brags about it all the time. So I don't see that. And everything's been at least you've been successful in terms of making the college football playoff up until this year.
But I just want to say this. I get what people are saying at the same time, but it's if you're the head coach, once you start making changes, there's only one way the arrow points.
But I will say the Torrey Becton thing, you also got to give him credit for a lot of the guys, not only what they've achieved, obviously, since he's been here and then making the college football playoff back-to-back years, but the combine performances, he gets a lot of extra credit for that. Maybe that's the way to say it. Because of the way Texas performs at the combine. Strength and conditioning coach usually gets a lot of love for those performances, whether it's justified or not. So yeah, I would the Torrey Becton thing, I'm not sure about it yet because I'm not sure it's a strength and conditioning issue either. Are we sure it's that? Are we sure they're just not strong enough and they're not well conditioned enough? I don't know if that's necessarily the case. Like, I don't know if that's the issue, honestly.
I didn't, and it doesn't mean I can't be wrong. I did not watch the Florida game and say, wow, our guys just aren't strong enough.
Yeah, like, I don't know. Yeah, I don't think.
I think they punched you in the mouth is what happened.
Yeah, they got it whipped mentally too up there. Yeah. Field says, when will you guys admit Sark screwed up not bringing in O-line guys in the portal? They had been stockpiling the O-line with talent. Remember, I mean, the Pancake Factory and all the guys they've been. So I'll leave it to Jerry because I know Jerry knows obviously the rankings more than me. But from the belief was that they were all just inexperienced talent they were unproven commodities, but not that they didn't have talent overall. That's a different conversation. So I think if it indeed they don't have the guys up front to build a competent, capable O-line, I think my opinion is that may have surprised the coaches too. That these guys can't cut the mustard, if you will, because they're talented guys. They got talent.
Yeah,
these are the same guys, like Jerry said, that the guys that the teams in the college football playoff wanted too. So I don't necessarily think that's it either. And I don't know if you find a lot of great O-linemen in the portal. Like, it's hard to find good O-linemen in the portal. All right, Juan here with a super chat. Juan says, was the schedule for Texas made it hard for them to be ready? Should the Ohio State game be the second game and they got at least a warm-up game for Ohio State? Was the scheduling that hurt them?
Hey, look, and I think it's a great question, but again, I throw it all out the window when you get on a flight and you fly to Florida and you already have one loss and you know it's a desperate team you're playing against. And you should feel desperate too, because if you take another loss, your hopes and dreams are really at a much lower percentage of making a college football playoff. To me, what I saw Saturday is what the one thing in sports I just loathe and I don't like. It's when you get on a plane and you had an off week and you know the game in front of you, and you can see on tape those guys are physical because they played two physical teams in LSU and Miami. And you know it's going to be a physical game. And you know you're going into a place that's tough to play. And you know if that team has any fight left, they're going to bring it to you. And you didn't match it. It goes way beyond everything else for me. This is a sports thing in general. There was no excuse, zero excuse not to bring your best to the fight physically and mentally.
Yeah.
That's my problem from a sports place in general in that scenario, that game. Because we did the show. It's put up or shut up time.
No urgency.
They didn't put up.
No. I would say that the coaches seem like they didn't have them totally prepared in terms of the intensity, like motivated to play. The game plan, in terms of game plan, Florida had a better game plan, offensively and defensively. So for the coaches and the players, you lost the bye week and then you lost game week. You lost both of them. And there's no doubt Florida, they went to work during the bye week.
And look, that's why I'm not saying I'm right, but we're just here talking about it. That's why my article on TexasFootball.com this morning was culture test Saturday. Culture's always talked about. It's easy to talk about culture when you're winning. This is the first time since Sark turned the program around that your culture's back is against the wall. And if you can't come out Saturday and show the most physical, emotionally charged fight you have since the Ohio State playoff game, then something deeper is going on. This is a culture test. And you got physically whipped. And and it's the exact same scenario. Oklahoma's coming to try to beat you up physically because you blew them out last year. The scenario is right there in front of your face.
Yeah. No, I agree with you, because since Sark turned the program around, give him credit for that, you haven't had an embarrassing, dumb, like stupefying loss. Like, what the was that? You got beat by teams that won championships, teams that won double-digit games, teams that won the SEC. It's like, okay, now you got to learn how to beat those elite teams. That's the next step for the program. And this is now embarrassing because it's one of those WTF losses. Like, what was that? And everybody now has to reevaluate because of what they saw on the field. Maybe the program is not in the place that we thought it was in. And that's, like I said, you're right about that, Jerry. They have not had a loss like this in a while.
This should be a back against the wall performance that we haven't had to see. And we should see a team that is breathing fire and is going to match or take the fight physically to Oklahoma. And if they can't do that, you got issues.
Spencer here says no one to play left guard, but a true freshman on tackle. Really, Flood? O-line definitely getting the most heat today, and they deserve it, by the way. They deserve all the smoke. They were inexperienced. We talked about this going into the season, guys, that the O-line was going to be inexperienced. They just didn't have a lot of guys with street cred. And I think now we're seeing it. We're seeing now that come to fruition on the field, unfortunately, in the ugliest of ways, that they don't have a lot of solutions either, especially with injuries too on the O-line. Injuries and inexperience, it just minimizes or it decreases the amount of possible solutions you have to solve problems.
We're going to get into the Oklahoma game. But here's the thing to watch in the Oklahoma game for me. Oklahoma doesn't have Jaden Ball talent running back. They haven't run the ball on anybody. If they run the ball in Texas, there's issues, especially after last week.
We said the same thing about Florida, though, getting pressure. I was like, if Florida can get pressure on Orange, then there's issues because Florida had the lowest pressure rate in the country. That's right. And turns out, issues.
That's right. And why it was so bad Saturday is Jaden Ball had 12 for 40 and 12 for 46 against LSU and Miami. And I know those are road games, and this matters in college football, but still, that only happens if you're losing the line of scrimmage with a guy that's going to play 10 years in the NFL, where you make him a non-factor except for one drive. Oklahoma hasn't run it on anybody outside of Mateer, outside of the quarterback. Jaden Ott is not Jaden Ball, even if he's healthy. If Oklahoma successfully runs the ball with running backs in this game and their run game suddenly looks better than it has all season, that's a real issue because that should not happen, especially coming off of Saturday.
I agree with you on that. Mayo Corn Dog, a shout out to Jerry there. Time to go back to the drawing board for the entire O line. Maybe reshuffle players, play Daniel Cruz and Nick Brooks. I agree with the first part, Mayo Corn Dog. I do think you might need to reevaluate the whole damn thing at this point. I do. I don't know who that is though.
You have to evaluate your entire OL with the best D line you face this year coming up. So
yes, it's not ideal. It's not ideal. Thank you for that, Mayo Corn Dog. But I think you're right about reshuffling the O line. We may see some of that prior to the Texas OU game. Ezra says, I have faith Texas will go 10-2. Ooh, I will go 10-2. They play better when their backs against the wall.
We're about to find out.
Perfectly. Did you see Taft post game? Yeah, Taft said he wasn't worried. I did see that, Ezra. He's like, I'm not worried about it. He said we lost an SEC game last year and then played for the SEC title. It feels different. You lost to Georgia last year. Georgia's a different standard than what Florida's going through right now.
Yeah, and my problem is you already lost one, and you knew you had to go in and you have to perform.
Yeah,
and the SEC is about physicality. Everybody talks about, we talk about how the recruiting's changed and they have more skill guys, but this league is still right here. It starts in the box, and it always will because of the talent in the Southeast region on the defensive front that all these teams can recruit to. And you already had one loss, and this was the easiest scenario to bring the fight to at Florida physically.
Because they had doubts. They weren't sure they could play with you like that. They had just had losses to Miami and LSU, so they were doubting themselves. But once it was like the Rocky movies. You ain't so bad. They had that you ain't so bad moment in the first quarter against Texas and never looked back. Taylor here says, when do we start to lose recruits playing this way? That's interesting.
Well, you got to let everything play out because other people have issues too, by the way. But recruiting is a lot transactional nowadays, and there's certain players committed to certain schools, even if those schools are struggling, that other schools may not go to that level from an NIL standpoint. So there's a lot that plays into it. It's so different nowadays. So we'll see what happens. But look, if you have a disastrous season, of course, but this stuff a lot of times affects your following class more. If you have just a total kick rocks type of season, it just goes off the rails. It tends to affect your next class a lot more than your current class. Not saying 2 or 3 guys can't defect. You see it happen. But the reality here is a lot of times those in the NIL day and age, those guys are defecting because head coach is on hot seat.
Mm-hmm.
Like Texas took advantage with Xavier Filsaime and Wardell Mack because those guys didn't think Billy Napier was going to survive.
Yeah.
And Texas is not there with their head coach.
All right. Thanks for the super chat. Lock in Horns. Thank you for the super chat. Good to hear from you. He says Sark didn't have team ready. Definitely defense sort of pulled it together second half, and Arch put it all out there, but still young mistakes. Shame on staff for counting on this O-line / running back room. Shameful thoughts. I mean, the O-line, like I said, I think they also misevaluated, kind of maybe misdiagnosed in terms of the issues the O-line would have this early. We knew they'd have issues gelling. That's what a young O-line that hadn't played together. We knew that would be the case. But at this point, this is not a gelling issue. This is not about chemistry. This is just about guys getting whipped up front and undisciplined. Yeah. As a lot of your penalties are coming from the offensive line too. So they're an undisciplined bunch and they're not very physical. And last year's O-line was finesse. It wasn't very physical, but they were technically proficient. They were a technically proficient line that helped them. This group is not technically proficient at all.
No.
So all that stuff kind of comes back to haunt them. So I'm with you. I think Flood. Flood's been we have seen the Texas O-line have success, almost unprecedented success here recently with some of the draft picks and some of the accomplishments. But there's no doubt they're struggling right now. You got to figure it out. All right. Hookem from Arkansas says we always underachieve as a program. Period.
I mean, look, back-to-back college football playoff national semifinal appearances. It's hard to say that is underachieving. This season, yeah, but always as a program, I don't go there. I know things are bad, but I don't go there. You make back-to-back college football. It's people act like it's just easy to win national championships.
It's not, but
not,
it is one in the last 55 years?
Yeah.
No.
But
it's about time.
Sark raised his own bar. Sark raised his bar to that point. But
exactly. You're supposed to be ascending this year. This is Longhorn fans. They want to hear you go back to back and then regress. That's not what they wanted to see.
And but you go back to back college football semifinals. It's hard for me to say you're underachieving as a program.
Yeah.
I mean, post MAC was underachieving as a program. To me, that was underachieving as a program. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, the last 2 years mean nothing and now you're underachieving. I just don't think it works that way. I think but this season, yes.
So it's not about the natty. It's about being competitive each Saturday, which we do not appear to be. Honestly, unfortunately, you end up being competitive at the end of the games to make it competitive. It's just you're sloppy, you're indisciplined, and you don't play championship level football for 4 quarters. You only see this team plays. They're flashes of this team being a good team, unless they play Sam Houston State or San Jose. We're talking about basically now that we got Ohio State and Florida. Those 2 games we're looking at. The UTEP game, I guess you can look at that one too. But now we have a sample size of them versus good teams. That's what we look at. And for the most part, we've seen Texas play as a team. Maybe 2 good quarters, 2.5 good quarters versus Ohio State and Florida. That's trouble. All right, getting back to it, Eric says maybe now Flood and the O-line can get an NIL deal with Sharman extra soft. Bow.
Hey, look, this should be an extremely physical football game by Texas Saturday.
Joshy says, I'll say it, Jerry, the difference is Kyle Flood. Yeah, Kyle Flood, I mean, Longhorn fans, they not holding back. They're not pulling punches. Kyle Flood is definitely the coming out of the Florida game. He is the coach getting the most smoke. There ain't no doubt. Not even Sark is getting as much smoke as Kyle Flood is.
Yeah. Well, that's the way this game goes. And then if you sacrificial lamb somebody and the results stay the same, then where do you go? It's always the be careful scenario.
Juan here says Kenny Baker, PK, and Akina and Nansen, their pride was hurt. I believe they have this ready for Red River. I feel like the defense can recover and will recover because we just haven't seen a lot of performances from a PK defense like that where the wheels completely fall off. Like I can't really remember one where they couldn't stop the run or stop the pass in the last 2 years, and we just haven't seen that. So I'm gonna put money on them rallying, just especially for the Texas OU game. Got leaders. I think they'll be fine. Offensively, with the offensive line, that is an entirely different story, ladies and gentlemen. Not sure about that. I wouldn't put money on the offensive line turning the corner versus Oklahoma.
No.
They may do it this season, but I don't know if it'll be this week. Yeah. Jonah Williams enthusiast, do y'all buy into our O-line not being athletic enough to run outside zone? Thank you, Jonah Williams enthusiast, for the super chat. That's a theory. I haven't heard that one.
Well, Texas wanted to go more gap power schemes this year.
Yep.
They wanted to change a lot of those percentages going into the year.
That's true. Cedric Baxter injury changed that too. Gray Man says, I'm some with the low loyalty death we are taking at some of these positions. These kids are getting paid in all caps. When are we getting a hot transfer at running back? It's not working, and this has been coming. I will give you guys in the chat a lot of credit. There have been a lot of people, even in the offseason, like, hey, I think we need to go into Portland and go get a running back. Because of the TJ Baxter injury coming off of last year, there were people, I remember that being discussed several times in the chat. And, I don't know if that would have solved your problems in right now, because if your O-line can't block, I don't know if that solves your problem. Does give you a more explosive running back. Let's see that.
Yeah, I mean, the running back in the portal, this discussion we've had all summer too, is it sounds great, but Texas had a 1,000-yard rusher coming back and C.J. Baxter coming back. And it's not like Ahmad Hardy went like Ahmad Hardy, great player. He wasn't going to go to Texas and fight for one of three guys' carries. Quinshon Judkins went to Ohio State because they had Travion Henderson and nobody else. You think Quinshon Judkins would have gone somewhere if there were two other running backs that had put it on the board, even though one's coming off injury? That's not like those guys aren't jumping in the portal to do that. I mean, Ahmad Hardy isn't jumping in the portal. Hey, yeah, sounds good. I'm going to go to Texas and I'll see if I can get 8 or 9 carries a game. See if maybe I can win the second team job. Maybe I can win the starter job. Maybe I'm just 1 of 3 because they have a 1,000-yard rusher. Some of these guys are thinking. That's just not reality. You're going to pay a running back $2 million to come in to keep him away from a school he's going to start at, and then he rolls his ankle the first week.
Not wise.
Yeah. I mean, there's just a lot that goes into it, I think.
Good point, Jerry. Taylor here says this same O-line got 166 rushing yards at Ohio State. That is true. I remember Bobby's theory was that they essentially, Ohio State decided to concede a lot of those yards because schematically they wanted to stop the pass. They wanted to win the numbers advantage there. I do remember Bobby saying that, but that's a good point, Taylor. Michael here with the super chat says, I miss Duvernay. Simple. I agree with that. He was
one of the most dependable players that's played at Texas, and he just did play on some of the best teams.
Great at the wide receiver screen game. You mean great in those wide receiver screens?
Great blocker, great on special teams. That dude was a hellacious player.
Yeah, I agree with you on that, Michael. Spencer, another super chat, says wide receiver development seems to be lacking for our high school wide receivers. Great point, Jerry. They have brought in a lot of guys via the transfer portal who have hit. I mean, you had X-Man here, but a lot of people thought X-Man's was a little inconsistent, that he didn't have a linear kind of trajectory of development here at Texas. That's a fair point. That's fair. Looking at Ryan Wingo now, Parker Livingston's look great, though. It's fantastic. DeAndre Morris looked pretty good. So it's debatable.
Yeah.
Debatable.
Look, if Texas keeps losing, the conversations are going to be about every single position coach, and I get it. Look, I get where we're at, and I get what we're doing here. But Ryan Wingo's got to perform too. He's
the number one guy, probably making number one money too.
I mean, you can't just take the bad and not take the good. Parker Livingstone is, you're seeing things there. I mean, do you get credit for Dalen McCutcheon?
Oh, he looks good.
Like if Khalid Locke ends up being a really good player in year 2, there aren't many physical freaks. Like DeCorey Moore, I call him a super freak coming out of high school. Super freak. Ryan Williams, I went to see him at Saraline. Super freak, right? Dallas Wilson is one of those guys. There aren't many of those guys. So the question these guys are ultimately going to be judged is the freshmen who aren't super freaks. What are they actually going to look like in year 2? A year of development physically, technically, mentally at the position. Then you get those guys out there. That to me is more when you judge these guys is, if you have 1 out of 4 of those guys hit, then you have a conversation because they're all talented. They're all nationally recruited players.
That's a good point. Kelly here with a super chat said, I've learned so much about football and the state of Texas from All in Texas Football. Awesome crew, Jerry, Rod, Bobby, and the 2 coaches. Tycoon, appreciate that, Kelly. It's a great team over here, actually. Best team I've worked for, whether it be covering Texas football or any kind of sports media organization. Really good crew here. So thanks to you guys for supporting us. Lock-in Horns says, does Sark need to get a true OC? We've been talking about this for probably 2 years now.
Yeah,
I would say. I am of the opinion that at this point, I still want to see Sark evolve a little bit more. I think there's some now. If he's not willing to evolve, then I guess the decision should be made that maybe bring in a coach that can evolve his offense a little bit more. But I still think there's some room for growth for Sark. Offensively. And the truth is, Sark ain't giving up that play call. He ain't doing it. Because just for the reason that Jerry just brought up. Because he knows as soon as I give the play calling up to somebody else, and then that's going to leave more opportunity for the fingers to point right back at to Sark about if that didn't work out, all right, That means, you're not finding solutions to the problems, that kind of stuff. So I do think at one point, if Sark's offense never reaches the elite status, because it's not elite this year.
No.
And it hasn't been elite offense since he's been here in terms of those elite statistical categories, then he should entertain the conversation too. He should be at least discussing it if it's something that could be holding Texas back from getting to a championship level. All right. Ronnie here says Sark had to realize Arch is Sam Ellinger 2.0. Damn. In terms of the running game, I'm assuming this is your.
I think, yeah. You're not going to survive in the SEC doing that.
He is running a lot of power with this young man, though.
Yeah.
Power concepts.
Yeah.
Quarterback counter.
That's when you knew, and we talked about it before, so that's when you knew things weren't going well if you started running Arch a lot, because that's not what the Mannings came to Texas to do. So that's the quarterback development isn't quarterback power in that family. So that's when you know things aren't going well from an offensive standpoint.
I think you're right about that, Jerry. Christian.
And by the way, he's a hell of an athlete, but he's not a shifty, twitchy guy. So he's going to take hits. And while he's a 6'4", 230-pounder, those hits add up over the course of a season. And so let's talk about this in mid-November if he's running 12 times a game, where his body's at that point in time.
Yeah.
Because you're also taking the hits in the pocket.
Yeah, I say in addition to him design runs and scrambles, then there's actually him in that Florida game. Look how many hits he took in the pocket.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm with Jerry. At one point, they got to start thinking about protecting him so he can make it through the season. Not going to work. Thank you, Christian. I didn't see a question attached. I just saw the super chat, but we're appreciative of your generosity. Lindy says, it seems like Arch's mechanics have worsened after the same happened with Quinn. Are you seeing this? I know the O-line sucks, but it's baffling with a QB guru as coach. Yeah.
Look, I don't think it's a I'm not going to sit here with Arch works with his uncles. He's worked with David Morse from QB country for years and years and years, right? I'm not sure how much quarterback coach there is outside of that. What's been there his whole life.
Yeah. And
that's not the part of the development of a quarterback that I think is part of this equation.
Yeah. And now my concerns about Arch are other stuff too, that he's a little bit late on some throws. He's not right. He's not like, think about the touchdown to Wisner. I mean, Wisner was open for a good second and a half while he's rolling out there. He didn't believe it. It's like he wasn't confident in what he was seeing. So there's some other issues that I have with Arch. But if you want to look at just quarterback mechanics, go look at all the quarterbacks like across the country. There's a whole lot of sloppy mechanics across the country.
You're seeing more. If you get to third read, you're seeing more sidearm throws than you ever have in the history of football.
The Mahomes factor. Everybody.
Yeah. I mean, look, Lagway threw one from his hip yesterday almost, right? I mean, I saw Rocco Beck, not Saturday. I still don't know how that guy finished the game. He got annihilated. A couple of weeks ago, I was flipping around. 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was watching one of the games, and he got the third reads, and he's throwing sidearm out to the right like 3 times in the game. And you're seeing it a lot. I'm not saying it's right, but you're seeing it a lot. And it sounds like, oh, you're just protecting. No, I'm not. I'm just saying what I see all the time. And you're seeing more of that now.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Doesn't make it right. Doesn't make it wrong. You're just seeing a lot.
Yeah.
Cotton says, I blame 7-on-7. 7-on-7 is the worst thing ever for quarterback mechanics, by the way. That's the worst thing ever for quarterback mechanics is you have no pressure. You're sitting there. The clock's going off. You don't have to. There's no hands in your face. There's no offensive lineman in front of you. You can just throw the ball with sloppy footwork, sloppy timing, sloppy arm slots. That's the worst thing ever for QB mechanics is 7-on-7. Totally agree, Cotton.
Hot take, like it. Justin here, thank you for the super chat. Says the team and staff need to find consistency outside of penalties. Every game has looked different. We should always be physical. I wanted to throw in the towel in the first half. Yeah, I mean, I would give them credit for fighting. They did in the Ohio State game and also in this game, down to the wire to make it close. But you're right; they have no identity, Justin. That's why offensively, you never really know what you're going to get, because if you have an identity, that's what you hang your hat on, and you do that as well as anybody in college football. So no, I know what we can do successfully. I'm not sure what this offense does really well. I'm not gonna lie to you, Justin. I'm not sure. I watch it. I watch a lot of Texas football. I'm not sure what they do well. Other than penalties is not something they do well. They get a lot of them. Yeah. But I'm not sure what their elite trait is as an offense. Other than Arch running and kind of being the one-man show. Arch's deep ball is still pretty. I think he's completing 47% of his deep passes. It's still a weapon for him. Yeah. I think he was 5 of 13 in that game on deep passes.
The one thing but it's not an elite trait, and it's not going to sit there and win you football games. They have good double move wideouts. I mean, DeAndre and Parker Livingston can route on people.
Even Mosley had a good one.
That's not winning you an SEC title. I'm just looking for anything right now.
No, Mosley had a good double move too. Remember, he was wide open. That was a double move. It was like a little out and up. He was wide open. Just a good point, Jerry. Jace, I do not see a question attached to it, but thank you very much for the super chat. If we find one, or if you have one, just throw it out there. Phil up next. As systemic issues, some tough conversations need to be had, in my opinion. Was Sark betrayed by his own assistants in their evaluations? Like I said, Sark's there. I mean, Sark.
Unless your coach is not there, that doesn't happen. I mean, these guys have their finger on everything.
Yeah, Sark's kind of a control freak. Jeff says, doesn't the buck stop with Sark not well prepared mentally and emotionally? That is all on Sark. That his team seemed like they had no sense of urgency and were not ready to play. And there's no doubt you had no schematic advantage in that game, defensively or offensively.
Yeah, I mean, look, the highest paid guys, that's where the buck stops.
Yeah, he's the big bucks. G-Town Eagle 76. I think a young team got caught overlooking Florida and to OU and looking at OU because of how Florida was playing. Come out and got punched in the mouth and reeled. It's a good point. I never thought about that. I've watched Florida on film and they did not look really impressive. We talked about that. And maybe they were looking forward to Oklahoma. I never thought about that. That was such a big game. You're going on the road to start SEC play. You're in 80 years.
But see, that's kind of my point. That's my point about there being an issue. That is not a game or scenario that a coaching staff or players should not. I mean, and I'm not saying it happened, but that was my biggest issue with this game from just a pure athletic standpoint. Any sport. That's not a scenario where you're overconfident or looking past anybody. This is the University of Florida on the road.
Exactly.
Who's battle tested, and you can see on film their physical team. They may not have executed worth of crap on offense. Miami's defensive line's really good, but there is still a physical football team. I mean, Miami's offensive line's really good, and Florida brought physicality to them. They lost the fight, but it's not like they were just getting pushed around the whole game out there. They were not. Same thing against LSU. Florida actually had 366 yards against LSU, but had Lagway 5 interceptions. They brought the physicality to 2 ranked opponents already. It's right there on tape. That's before any of the players and X's and O's. I'm just talking a pure athletics thing. That was my biggest issue. That is not a scenario you should be overlooking an opponent, being overconfident opponent, having any arrogance versus an opponent, or not bringing your absolute physicality from a sports perspective, period. That was an all-around fail because that is not a scenario that should happen.
No show. Sorry. Yep. Samir here says, what's worse, University of Florida or Georgia last year in Austin? We also bounced back and whipped A&M a few weeks later, and who had a great front. I think we can fix it.
Yeah, so we're about to find out. Because different team, obviously different seasons, but the Texas team bounced back in a strong way from that Georgia game. Yep. They bounced back. They didn't let one loss beat them twice. They bounced back and built from there. That doesn't mean they didn't have the same issue later in the season. in some regard, but they bounce back from it. And again, that's why I think this Saturday it's a culture test. This is the first back against the wall culture test Texas has had since Sark turned the program around. We're about to find out Saturday. You're going to know. And I said this on ontexasfootball.com. The Texas fans will know, and the Oklahoma fans will know Saturday about 5:30 p.m. If the Oklahoma fans walk away from that game, even if they win, say, man, that Texas team brought the fight. That was a physical battle. That looked like a different team than we watched against Florida. That's what needs to be said Saturday at 5:30 p.m. If it's not said, there's major issues.
Samir, Florida is worse than Georgia. Georgia was the standard. Georgia's won national titles. Kirby Smart's one of the best coaches, if not the standard of college football. And they had multiple, first-round picks on the D-line. I mean, that team won the SEC. Florida's not going to win the SEC.
No.
Billy, that was
still get fired.
Yeah, Billy Napier ain't Kirby Smart. And they had more pressures than Kirby Smart and Georgia did.
Yeah. You're going to find out something Saturday again. I think this is big, and I hate to bring the A&M into the conversation. A&M's been really good at pressuring quarterbacks this year. We're going to see. We're going to see. If they get a lot of pressure on Lagway, that is not a good sign.
Yeah, and I believe you rushed for fewer yards than you did with Georgia. So Just Florida game was worse than the Georgia game, in my opinion. Not even close. But thank you for the super chat, Samir. We appreciate that. All right, how about this one? Quentin says, we were never going to win a natty in Archer's first year starting. We have a young team figuring it out, and we'll be better for it next year. Hop on for the ride and stop being emotional, fans. See, now there you go. It's all about your expectations. The reason we all upset is because we all had really high expectations. I had him 11-1. So that's if now we lower our expectations, then I guess we will be less upset and maybe enjoy the experience. But the standard is supposed to be the standard, and there's no doubt you can't lower your expectations without lowering the standard that you have for the team somehow.
Yeah, and again, Quentin, and look, I know it's tough after a loss like this was what we have to talk about, but again, that was my negative from the game is there's two things that irritate the fans is in football when you get beat physically and you're undisciplined. And that's the thing is I'm looking at this a little different right now because I did not like what I saw in this, and I didn't like it at all, especially when you already had one loss this season, and especially knowing what was on the line and where you were going to play and all the scenarios we talked about umpteen times. That's why this Saturday is going to be very interesting for me with this team this year. I'll challenge them. I know some of these kids, you better show up for a fight, and you better show that you're ready for a real fight because last week was that wasn't good from an athletic standpoint. Wasn't good.
I used to call it the State Fair street fight for a reason.
That's 100% right.
It's a street fight. Lane with a super chat. Thank you very much, Lane. Says, it's hard pivoting to spread concepts a viable option. Bad lines of scrimmage never stop Leach from ruining seasons. Only hopium I can think of. He ruined one of mine in 2002. He was supposed to go to a BCS title game in Leach and Kingsbury. They ruined our season. So you're right. But you ain't supposed to just be spoiler if you're Texas. You ain't supposed to be playing spoiler. That's not your role. And you ain't supposed to be a slump buster. That ain't your role. You were for Florida. All right. So you need to figure out your identity as a program right now. I think you got to get back to physicality and the basics. Blocking and tackling. Let's just do that well. Yeah. Trey here says, why Sark looks so soulless after the game? Yeah, there's been some. Okay, I've seen this on social media. Longhorn fans want more emotion out of Sark during the game and in the post game when his team's playing badly. And I have no problem with him being composed. I think he's just trying to make sure that he puts out a certain, just a certain image. Out there, you can tell when he's upset, obviously. Yeah. Just going after, other coaches and showing that emotion. I don't think you'll ever get that from Sark. I think he's going to try to stay pretty composed. And even in post games, he may be very frank and matter of fact, but I don't think he'll ever get emotional. I think coming from his quarterback days, he's also learning from his quarterback days how to handle emotion. He never gets too high. He never gets too low. That's just kind of how he is.
Yeah, and I'll say this too. When a game like that happens, it's not just the players that got punched in the face. When you sit there and watch that for the first 3/4 of the game and say, wow, we just got it taken us physically in every way possible in a football game. That rocks everybody.
You lost all 3 phases. You didn't win a phase of the game. You didn't win any aspect of the game. You didn't win not one. Not really. I don't think you won any aspect. I got to go back and look at all.
There's nothing worse unless it's Mike Leach in the spread, right? And run and shoot. There is nothing worse in football than standing on a sideline. And look, I'm 0-0, but look, we've been around it our whole life. My dad coached a long time. There's not a worse feeling for a football coach than when you can't run and they run on you.
Yeah.
That is the worst feeling in football. Brian Irwin will talk about it on Lunch with the Coach tomorrow.
It's demoralizing.
You run the football and they run the football on you, especially when they hadn't been able to run the football on 2 previous opponents. That's demoralizing.
We had some Texas OU game. We had kind of like that, I think. We couldn't stop the run and they ran on us. And you're right, it's demoralizing. So I agree.
They're searching.
Well, that's trenches. That's just trenches. That's what that means. That just points to your trenches, and that's where Texas has their biggest issues. All right, Jay says, obviously, O-line and defense were liabilities this week, but when do we stop coddling Arch? 2 interceptions, could have been 4. Inaccurate throws, 2 sacks in the last 2 minutes is just not good enough. Jace, I will admit he holds the ball. Not a lot. There's a lot contributing to this. They got more vertical routes downfield, so it takes longer to develop. He extends plays a lot of the times. It means he'll avoid a rusher, extend the play, scramble, drill, look downfield. Did that very well, actually, in the game versus Florida a few times to get you some big completions. But yes, honestly, part of it is he holds the ball 3.2 seconds on average. That is a top 10 longest rate in college football. And I think ultimately it's because – he's looking toward the vertical routes, and at times he needs to learn not only to get through the progressions quicker, but the pre-snap should help him get to the check down quicker at times, knowing what will be presented in the post-snap. And so I think they should get back to him getting more information pre-snap, but also they got to get the ball out of his hands quicker because there's a lot of those sacks from Florida, not a lot of them, I would say maybe half of them, probably was him just holding on to the ball, waiting for that route to clear open. And you got to throw guys open. You need to anticipate guys coming open. And that's something he doesn't do very well. He struggles with anticipation.
His look, I mean, that last couple of minutes was those are the 2 sacks, and look, the ball that Cormani McClain almost intercepted and dropped. I mean, that's a play you gotta make better decisions in that. There's no way around it. You either have to get the football out and throw it in the stands and live to play another day. That one play that almost got picked to McClain, it looked like he had 5 yards, could have run out of bounds. I mean, that was not good football in those last 2 minutes. I mean, look, that simply wasn't. And that has to change pretty much immediately. You're getting experience now. That you're getting experience. I believe that's his first 2-minute drive. Well, no, Ohio State probably a little bit too. Yeah. So he's had 2 of those now. You gotta start to make strides when the game's on the line.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, nobody's making excuses for Arch. No. Just right now, Arch ain't your biggest problem. That's the good news. Arch is not your biggest problem right now. You got much bigger, I think, issues and much more serious issues than Arch. Unfortunately, Ronnie J. T-ball can still be a get for Texas in this class.
Running back from Texas High, committed to Oregon.
Okay,
we'll see.
All right, thanks for the super chat.
I think as long as Derek Cooper's committed to Texas, Texas has done it running back on the high school level.
I like that guy. Damn,
he's really good.
Cotton says, address the D-line D lineup changes, swapping guys, want consistency. Too much. Get your experienced guys out there each play. I will say this, Cotton, to your point, they had a lot of young guys in there early versus Florida and in critical moments.
That's why I was like, are you a little overconfident?
I was shocked, Jerry. There were some guys in there. I'm like, is he? Why they? I think I'm not gonna start naming names, but they had a lot of the young guys in there early. I'm talking about third drive of the game. Young guys in there on defense, rotating them in. Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I think you should wait for more favorable situations to put your young guys in. You want to rotate them, and you want to have certain numbers that each snaps that each guy's getting. But I think in more critical moments, you need to make sure that you got your best guys in, the right guys in. So I agree with Cotton on this.
Yeah, the
lineup changes. I think they were a little too loose, if you will, with the rotations versus Florida. I don't think you're that deep. I think you're a little too deep. Yeah, you ain't that deep. Aloha Traveler. Aloha on offense. I just don't understand how Sark looked at what he had and thought he could roll with it with a tougher schedule. Is Sark too stubborn to fix this via the portal, especially on the O-line? There you go. Another Sark getting it done. Should look to the portal to go get O-line help. Yeah.
Yeah, look, everything's on the table now.
Especially if you don't get it fixed.
Yeah.
If this thing continues to spiral, then I agree. All those things you guys are discussing, the very drastic actions, changes in the staff and personnel changes and transfer portal, all that's, I agree with Jerry, is on the table if you don't improve the product. Syrup Sailor says, do you agree with Flood's O-line recruiting philosophy? Big humans? Like the big humans thing.
Yeah, I mean, look, you have to be big guys and be able to move people. Now, how do you do that within your scheme, in your run game schemes, right? I mean, that's the thing, Rod. I mean, you either recruit athletic guys who can play on the edges and can get the linebackers and work quickly up the field. Because that we talked about this going into the game. It wasn't in the run game. I'm not even sure it was the defensive line. It was the linebackers for Florida that were just like, you knew you had to get a hat on the linebackers. They play a 3-man front, right? Essentially, you have to get a hat on their linebackers. Yeah. Their linebackers are active and free.
Yep.
But look, there's an element of it. You have to be, if you're going to be big, you also have to be athletic enough. You have to have body quickness as an athlete on the offensive line. If you don't have body quickness, you're not going to be able to react to the level of athletes you're going to play every week in the SEC. You got to have body quickness. You got to have reactive quickness. I just call it reactive quickness. Feet, body. You got to be reactive quick.
Yeah. Julie Bell, thank you for the super chat, says, do you have any insight on why Derek Williams isn't getting that many snaps? I feel like he should have been on the field more. I saw him out there. He didn't play a lot, though. You're right about that. I thought they'd go with the big nickel package to kind of start the game. Put Grayson, since you didn't have Malik Muhammad, put Grayson Little to that corner, Jalen Gilbo, and go to big nickel package because they wanted to run the football and they weren't just sort of throwing the football downfield. They did not do that. Derek Williams played a little, but he didn't play a lot. I was a little surprised that we didn't see more of him. I got to go look at his snap count from the Pro Football Focus and see exactly what it is, but I don't recall seeing him as much as I thought I would have seen him in that game. Considering they run the football, he's one of your best alley cats.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That was a game for physical safety.
Yeah, playing to run from depth, and that's exactly what he is. Slick Rick, thank you for the super chat. Says it's time for Sark to hire an OC. Jerry Rod, is very puzzling how vanilla and predictable we have been on both sides of the ball. It is clear there is now a template being developed now that there's such a large sample size of Sark's offense at Texas, of how to defend the Sark offense and his favorite concepts that he likes. And the screen game, they ran like 3 or 4 of them screens for you. They did. They knew exactly what they were coming. They choreographed those damn things and had linebackers waiting on them, or D linemen waiting on them. So I just think Sark can run the same concepts. He's gotta present them differently. Got to dress them up differently. Because I agree with you. I think really well coached teams that we've seen, Georgias of the world, Ohio States of the world, they seem to know when and where Sark is going to run his favorite concepts. No doubt. I agree with you on that. Unfortunately. Jerry Jacks Links says, I'll say it again, 2026, baby. But at what point does Flood go to the portal? There are no excuses for inexperience. Damn, Kyle Flood is getting hammered today. Yeah. Woo. He's getting hammered today, man. I want to say at least half of these super chats have been saying Kyle Flood needs to go, or they need to figure out something in the portal to give him more help on the O-line.
Yeah. It's always gets the dangerous game time when you start when this starts to be the answer to the problems, because what happens if it changes and it doesn't change the problem? Then there's only one thing left.
Ooh. All right, Jerry Jackson Lane got another one here. Thank you for the super chats. And Texas was known for being soft for over a decade. And I thought we were past it, and we're actually ready for the SEC year in and year out. Defensively, I was almost sure you were kind of past that defensively. And Texas hadn't really been known for being soft necessarily defensively for a while. On the O-line, yeah, Texas had some systemic issues on the O-line. And I think Kyle Flo is a big part of trying to change that perception. There's no doubt right now the trenches are the biggest issue for Texas, and that is disturbing going into the Texas OU game. Which is happening, obviously, this Saturday. We'll talk about it, of course, and break it down. Let's thank our sponsor before we end tonight's live stream. Thank you guys for all the super chats. We appreciate it. Thank you to RogueShop.com. Use that discount code you see right there on your screen on Texas, and you'll get a very special discount from our very special friends over at Rogue Shop. Use that discount code on Texas, bringing real plant medicine back to its roots. They also ship nationwide, no matter where you are in this great country of ours. Our friends over at Rogue Shop can get their fantastic products to you. Well, they have it all, from oils and creams to flour and gummies, no matter what you're dealing with, whether it's sleep deprivation, whether it's aches and pains from battling Father Time, maybe just general anxiety. Our friends at Rogue Shop, they have a lot of different items that will help you battle those ailments successfully. So reach out to them at RogueShop.com. All right, thank you very much to Matthew behind the scenes. He's the real MVP. Can't thank you enough. Thanks to each and every one of you guys out there for the super chats. Sorry we couldn't get to all the questions. Tried to hit as many of them as we could, but if you have some that we did not hit and it's really on your mind, you really want to get Jerry's thoughts or Bobby's thoughts, you can direct them to the gentleman, Jerry here at Coffee and Football, bright and early tomorrow morning. 8:15. Yep, coming back. And also Sark's Monday press conference. We'll have that covered for you as well here at On Texas Football. So we'll have a reaction to that coming up on Monday. And you have the winning drive, the prime time edition with myself, Coach Bob Shipley, and also CJ Vogel will be joining us for that live stream on Monday. And also Stevie Lee's going to join us. He'll talk about line play. Wait for that one. All right. Thank you guys once again. Exactly. For Matthew and for Jerry, I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. Until next time, hook 'em horns.